In this video, we're going to be taking a look at importing a LED neon sign layout that I did in another design software, in this case, Inkscape. And we're going to import that here into CorelDRAW workspace. And then we're going to use our CorelDRAW macro that we created to edit the design the way we need it to be before we actually send it to production. And we'll talk about some of those things as we go about doing them. So let's import our design. So first of all, our design was an Orange Crush layout. So let's find that. There's Orange Crush. So we'll go ahead and import that. Now it looks kind of weird at the moment, but we're going to fix that. We're going to right click and choose Unlock Object. They always come in locked when you import an SVG. So we'll unlock it. And then we'll just click down here on this little square, and that will get rid of all of our fill colors. So there is our finished LED sign design. Now, here's the thing. When we're dealing with LEDs, it really depends on the type of LED that you're going to be using. We sell two different types. One type of LED, the LED light strip is embedded in the silicone diffuser. Okay, and we sell it basically in two different types. The first type being that the spacing, the cut spacing, is basically an inch apart or 2.5 centimeters, and then the other type that we sell, the spacing is roughly 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter. So you know, it just depends on what LED you're using. I will say this, our most common is the 2.5 centimeters. There's really no real benefit I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that there isn't. There are some cases where your design may be such where there's an element that you want to show in your design that is less than 1 inch long. Now, in most designs, like if you look at this Orange Crush design, all of these pieces are longer than an inch, okay? Now, there are some instances where, for example, you might want a segment to be 1.5 inches. Well, if you're using the LED segments that are 1 inch apart or 2.5 centimeters, you can't have 1.5 inches. You can either have 1 inch or 2 inch, but so basically the intervals are in inches. And so, like I said, there may be some instances where you just cannot deal with that. You have to have 1.5 inches, or you have to have 1 3/4. Whatever the case is. So there may be some instances where the 1 inch cut spacing isn't the best. But I will say this, the 3/8 cut spacing is more expensive, and the reason it's more expensive is because there's more that goes into making that product. There's more copper. It's just a more involved product, and so it's considerably more expensive. So, it's a bit of a give and take. All right? So we're just going to make this design the way we normally would with our 2.5 centimeter spacing, which again is 0.98 inches. So we've created a tool here that makes this process really, really simple. Okay, so for example, on our straw here, on our green straw, how many segments does this green straw, as it sits, how many segments does this green straw take up? Well, if we click on that and we open up the My Neon Flex Helper, it tells us that we have 10 segments. It tells us how long the line is, so you can see here it's currently 9.31, and how long it needs to be for 10 segments to fit in. Now, in this particular case, you could see that we need to modify this quite a little bit because, we're, I don't know, roughly a 1/2 inch difference. So it's not a ton, but it's a little bit. And so when I pull that out, you see what happens? When I pull this out, it automatically shows us how much longer this is. Okay, so that's one way. We can make the strong longer, but we could also just make it taller. So now you can see it's at 9.7. So we went just a touch tall, 9.89, and we wanted 9.9. So we could just zoom in here and move it just a tiny little bit. Now it says 9.91, 9.2. Okay, so we can get it pretty dead on perfect. It's not necessary, first of all. It's totally not necessary. But we could get it dead on perfect if we, like I said, if you really desire to, you can really get it down there. So let's click on our big orange section here. So we need 23 segments exactly. And so it's currently 22.97, and we need it to be 22.66. So what could we do? So we need it to be 6.6. It needs to be slightly smaller. So we could just nudge that over a little bit. And you can see now it's 22.9. And so if we move this over a little bit, we'll get rid of that. 7.8, 7.5, 6.8. You know what? I'm gonna just change it up. I just want to show you how we could do some different things here. So we're back to 23, and we need it to be 23.6. So it's currently 23, but we need it to be, so okay, so now we're up to 24 segments. Okay, no problem. Where we started out was 23 segments. But what I wanted to show you was you could just bring in the outside here. So it's 22.8, we need it to be 22.6, so it's just a little bit too wide. So we'll just move this whole thing in. So it's 22.4, now it's too narrow. So we could just leave it at 22.7 because it should be 22.66, close enough, right? So now this we'd have to adjust. That piece is 33, so it's currently 32.45. We need it to be 32.46. So guess what? We don't need to change that at all because it's so close to what we need. It's good enough. Our LED segments will fit in there. Okay, so we don't even have to modify that. So what about these guys? So you can see here, it's going to take two segments plus our 1/8 inch spacing for our wiring is 2.085, and we are at 1.65. So we could just nudge this up a little bit. And this is one of those areas where having that smaller LED could come in handy, because here we got to make it a little bit bigger than what it is. You see here it's 2.07, we need it to be 2.08. So we need it to be just a little bit bigger. 2.04, 01, 08. Ding, 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 ding. There we go. We don't have to be that precise, people, but it's okay that we were. So now that we have that piece, then we know that we could just copy over like so, and those pieces have to be the same. So there you go. So like I said, most of the time we can make it work. Most of the time we can make it work. All right, so all those work out. So 32.46, etc. This one is 22.7. It should be 22.6. And up here is 9.92, and that is 9.92. Okay, so then we can click here. This should be 5.01, and you see it says it should be 5.02. So guess what? That's within tolerance, so we're not going to mess with that. 3.06 is 3.1. That's within tolerance. No need to mess with that. 1.1, and it's 1.07. We don't really have to mess with that. It's certainly within tolerance. We're talking about 0.3 of an inch. So it's very, very minute. And this one here, again, we're talking about 1/10 of an inch. 6.97, it really should be 6.98. I mean, if we really wanted to, we could just bump this out just a scotch. You can see here, 0.98, 0.98, hardly anything. So when it's so close, which happens a lot, then there's really no point in even messing with it. So our C on crush, again, we're within 1/10 of an inch, so it's currently 5.92. We need it to be 6, close enough. 2.01, it's 2.08. Again, now that's you know, that's 6/10 of an inch. Again, not enough for me to worry about, but 1.11, yes, that will fit. 5.1, 5.025, good enough. If it's a big discrepancy, now here, I don't know, do you call that a big discrepancy? Not really. That's not that big a discrepancy, but we can definitely fix it. So uh, maybe what we'll do is it's currently 4.95. So let's see here. What do we want to do to fix it? Let's bump out our S just a little bit. There we go. That's it. Barely had to touch it. So like I said, it wasn't really probably worth messing with. But definitely this is within tolerance. And last but not least, now this obviously we want to change this. This is off kilter a little bit. So here we're at 2.7. So we need to be at 3. That's almost a 1/4 inch off. So that's pretty significant. So we'll go ahead and select those two, and we're just going to bump it out a little bit because we need to make it bigger. So you see now we're at 2.8. Now we're at 2.8 still. And you know, we've moved it pretty significantly at this point. 2.95, 2.99, 3.04. We're going to zoom in here because we need just to move it a tiny little bit. 5, 6. Okay. So we did move that a fair bit. So let's go. So you can see here, we moved it quite a bit. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes what that happens is when we had to move that one quite a bit, I don't really like it that wide. So now we got to kind of look at it from a different perspective. I definitely don't like it that wide, first of all. So let's see if we can't fix some of this. So now what do we do? Well, let's pull it back in kind of where it was, because the other way to do it is to make it only require 2 segments. So it's currently requiring 3, so it's asking for 3.06. But if we could move this in enough to only require 2, the other thing we could do is pull that down, make it smaller. Okay, so right there. That's how small it has to be, 2.08, to only require 2 segments. Okay, and you can see right now it's 2.3, so we need to shrink it down just a little bit more. Doesn't have to be much. 2.718. I don't know, is that within tolerance? Maybe. There we go. 1.4. So now what we have to do is, you know, you kind of have to make that determination. Do we like that? It's a bit of a give and take. Okay. What do we like better? Do we like it smaller, or do we like it bigger? And I don't know. I don't necessarily like. I don't necessarily like this either. So, and then, but sometimes that's a little bit of a give and take that you have to make. Because like I said, right now it's at 2.6 and we need it to be 3. We need it to be 3 even segments. And this is one of those cases where this particular piece actually probably would look better if we did the 1 inch or the 1 centimeter cut neon, because that's every 3/8 of an inch. So it'd be totally different. So for example, if I come in here and choose the 1 centimeter spacing, so if we use the other style neon for this, what would it ask us for? So it's going to tell us we need 7 segments, and so you can see here it would tell us it's currently 2.6 and it would need to be 2.8. So you can see how much difference, you know, that 1/4 inch difference, because it was before it was asking for 3.05, now it's asking for 2.8. And this would be a lot easier to make 2.8 than See, there it is, 2.81. That's close enough. And so you could see what that would look like versus the other. And we could actually make this a little bit longer as well. So that's the difference in that cut spacing. So let's go back here to design edit. Because ultimately, I don't really know what to do here. 2.8, I think what we have to do is, as much as I hate to do it, is we're probably just going to have to go with a wider H. I think that's ultimately what we're going to have to do. So there's 3.04. We'll call that good enough. And I think that's what we're just going to have to do. We're going to have to go with that wider H. Like I said, I don't really like that look necessarily, but it's not terrible. That ultimately is what we're going to have to go with, though. We could actually make this a little bit longer. So now we're at 3.2, and then we could come in to bring that back in a little bit to get it back to 06. See, we're at 07 right now. Now we're at 04. 05. 06. So that's, yeah, I think that actually does look better. All right, so sometimes it does have to take a little bit of tweaking to make that all work. But now we can go ahead and output this design the way we need it to. Let's go to wireframe mode real quick. Not sure exactly what happened here, to be honest. Looks like we got lots of duplicates for some reason. So I'm not real sure what happened there. I'm pretty sure I'm deleting the right one. Let's see. In that case, I don't think I did. That's not the one we want. This little guy is the one we want. That's the good one. We want to delete that one. That's the good one. And we want to delete that one. Not sure how these all got duplicated here. A lot of these we did not have to modify at all. That's a good one, 5.02, 5.02. This one we didn't have to modify. Looks like we should have though. There we go, there's our original. And then this one. So you can see how much we did modify. See, that's the good one that we just modified compared to the original one. So we weren't off by that much, really, surprisingly. That really does surprise me quite a bit. We just weren't off that much at all. And then we should be, nope, 32.4, 32.4, okay. So now we're kind of back to where we started. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this because I just want to show you what we have to do to create our grooves and all of that part of it. So we're going to go ahead and come into our outline pen dialog box, and we want our border to be 4.9 millimeters. We'll go ahead and do rounded caps. So now all of that's taken care of. But you still see just a straight line, so we're going to go up here to arrange, convert outline to object. That's going to give us our 4.9 millimeter channel. So you can see that's all ready to go now. Might move my straw over just a touch to center it in that spacing, just a little bit better. Double check the design. I'm happy with everything else. So we are going to group all of that together and come into our contour tool, and we're going to bring it to the outside by how much. So I'm going to say for this example, let's do a 1/2 inch. I usually use 1/2 inch or an inch Those are kind of my two go-tos. Okay, and so we'll right click and break that contour group apart, and so it's going to give me that and my original. Okay, and so I'm going to go back over here to normal mode, because what I'm going to do is just drag this out here. Sure, what the deal is there. Not sure how we got that fill color. We'll change it real quick. There we go. Now we're back to square one. All right, so here we're just going to break this apart. So right click, break apart. We're going to delete all those little bits and pieces. And now, because that is such a minimal amount there, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and delete that. And we're just going to pull that out just a little bit to kind of soften that up a little bit. We'll use these little control handles. They are tiny. Just to kind of smooth that out a little bit. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just create an anchor on this side, and let's go ahead and delete what's in the middle there. And let's do the same thing here. So we're going to create an anchor. That's already got an anchor. Boom. So you can see that just rounds it off. Makes that little dimple a lot better. And then same thing up here. We can come way in here, get rid of that. And I'm just going to double click, create an anchor. We got an anchor on both sides. Delete that, and that'll kind of fix itself. Now, this little part right here, I do actually want to fix this. So what I'll do is I'm just going to create a little circle here and just make my own little thing. I'll tell you what, let's not complicate that. Let's just go ahead and add a node on both sides. Okay, we'll delete this one here in the middle, and then right click to curve, right? And we'll just kind of bend it like that, so it too has a curve as well. We wouldn't actually really need to do that when we go to the CNC, because then the 1/4 inch end mill would round that off. The 1/4 inch end mill is going to round off this corner as well automatically, because it's going to do a contour cut. So it's not a big deal. So there is our backer board shape. There is the neon sign itself. So we'll center that back up, and there you go. That's what it would look like. So whether we take our backer and use acrylic, I don't ever use acrylic. I always use an opaque background, but I know some people like the acrylic background. I personally don't. So I always use some type of opaque background, whether it be a foam board or plywood or an MDF or just kind of whatever the job calls for that particular customer. So there it is. That is how to do the design work. But I'll tell you what, this little function here of setting those, and so when we cut 30, like in this case, when we cut the 33 segments or whatever, it's gonna be it's gonna fit in there just exactly perfectly. So so that to me it's gonna be super useful. So you see, there's 33 segments there, so it'll fit perfectly right inside there. Okay. So I hope you've learned a little something about it, and thanks for watching.